Okay, Nick and Andy, let's preview the massive UEFA Champions League quarterfinals, second leg coming up. Real Madrid against Arsenal. Of course, Arsenal taking that impressive, incredible 3-0 lead to the Spanish capital for this second leg. Nick, how do they approach this game? Because most people, human mentality and nature will be like, we're already in the semi-finals. We've already got 1 foot, but that's the worst possible thing Arsenal can do, right, against this Real Madrid team. Because if there's any team that can pull off this kind of comeback, probably going to be this Real Madrid team. It does seem very unlikely, but we've seen them do it so many times, and all it would take is one early goal from Real Madrid in this game to really, just get the nerves going with this Arsenal team. But they were excellent in that first leg. How do they approach this second leg?
Look, I think it's 100% the mental game. There's nothing to do with if Arsenal play at 80%, they get through. But it's all up here, and it's kind of what we've talked about when it comes to them in the Premier League, as they're kind of gonna be in second, right? Like, can they continue to show us that it's part of a machine? It is what Klopp built. It is what Guardiola built for such a long time, that this is, this train doesn't stop. We may have to fix some things in the brakes or in the gears or shovel more coal in, but the train keeps going. Who's ever riding it, who's ever in the 11, who's ever in the 18. So that's the challenge. It's all up here, because I honestly think that Real Madrid have shown mentality cracks this year, and it's one of the things that hurt them the other day. It's also nice to be a guy like Martin Odegaard, who's going up against a team that he just couldn't break into, and is probably, I think that the boys are also playing a little bit for him. Not that you're not playing for a Champions League place anyways.
Yeah, it's true. There's so many interesting storylines, right, Andy, around this game. And after the first leg, obviously all the talk is around, in Madrid, the remontada, the comeback. Can they pull it off once again? I think midfield was pretty key. Nick mentioned there, Odegaard was excellent. Rice obviously scored 2 bangers, but was excellent. Thomas Partey was, again, really, really good at picking up the second balls and starting the transitions for Arsenal. I mean, in midfield, we love Luka Modric, legend of the game, but it seemed like he really just got overrun there in that first leg. Is this where Madrid put Valverde back in midfield from right back into his natural position? And then Tchouaméni's obviously coming in from suspension from the first leg, and just have that extra kind of ability to stop Arsenal dictating the tempo in midfield. Do you think that's where Real can kind of get some stranglehold? Because we know how good they are going forward, but quite clearly with the injuries at the back, they are very susceptible right now to giving up big chances.
Yeah, they're kind of the team, weirdly, you don't expect this from Real Madrid, that they need everything to be going absolutely perfect right now for, just for everything to function and keep ticking over together. And when one little cog falls out of that machine, it kind of all just falls apart a little bit. And I agree with Nick. It does seem to be a bit of the mentality with this team, because you can look at the squad. It's effectively the same squad that we know what they did last season in the Champions League. They went and won it again. And this year, it hasn't quite looked like the belief was there. The performance was, they played the same way that they always do in the Champions League. And for like 50, 55 minutes, it looked like it was going to be okay. Maybe Arsenal are going to steal a goal late and we'll go back home. We'll be down a goal. We love being in that position as Real Madrid. And then it just, once the first goal went in, they completely collapsed, and they looked like they had been, defeated already in the tie. Forget about the leg. It looked like the tie was over at that point. And so it will be interesting to see how they pick themselves back up. If there's any manager that can do it, it's Carlo Ancelotti. But yeah, Nick, Joe, the midfield it's a mess right now. And I'm kind of looking at it thinking, how did they go into the season with this collection of players and not bring in someone else as kind of that longer term, not Modric replacement, but someone that we can go to in some of these bigger games when we're going to be up against the best teams of the world? And nobody loves Luka Modric more than us, but he probably shouldn't have been starting in that game, given the way that Arsenal play and the youth and just the pace that they have in that side. And yeah, it was kind of sad to see him look so far off of it.
Well, also, don't forget, this is a team that I don't think really has got – they have young guys stepping up, very good players in the middle of the park. Maybe they expected Valverde to be there a little bit. They've had their issue at fullback. But Toni Kroos isn't there anymore. Toni Kroos was there for a decade as one of the best midfielders that we've ever seen. And again, just to make the point, and let's be honest here, I'm not a huge Real Madrid guy anyway, and I just want to be clear about that. But even going back to the Ballon d'Or, where our guy's not going to win, so none of us are going, it's just, there are always things at play at that club. Like Ancelotti's job shouldn't be in question this year, and yet it is, just because they didn't win everything. There's just something that's not right there, and it's something that is right at Arsenal, and I think it's just two things colliding.
Yeah, it's true. I just think if they target, there's more intensity, right? I listened to Jude Bellingham after the game, and he said we just couldn't get going. We didn't have the intensity. We need that from the start and the second leg. And I feel like if they can target and pick off the balls that Arsenal do like to play out of the back, they did it a few times in the first half. In the first leg, Mbappe got in, Vinicius didn't take those chances. So targeting Kivior, again, might be a bit harsh, but obviously he did well enough, but he's still kind of the weak link in that Arsenal back four there to have come in not playing much all season long. And it's a huge ask for him in the Bernabeu as well. And again, a lot of these Arsenal players are young, inexperienced, and haven't had the experience of playing in the second leg of a Champions League quarterfinal away at Real Madrid, everything around that, and the kind of just intensity that atmosphere is going to bring to the game. And that's why I do have a bit of a worry for Arsenal. I still think they'll go through, probably, but I just feel like that we've seen this from Arsenal at the end of seasons in years gone by. And this is the next big step for them to say if they can finally kind of shed that tag of being a team that crumbles in the key moments of the season. And again, not by much, by the way, because they've been so close to winning it the last couple of years in the Premier League. But this is their chance, right? Talk about seizing the moment. And this young group of players who are experienced now, this is it for them. You're 3-0 up from the first leg against Real Madrid. This is the moment to kind of put your flag in the ground and say to the rest of Europe, we're here to stay, we're a force, and you should now expect us to be in the quarterfinals, semi-finals of this competition every single season. So, Nick, what do you think about the celebrations after the first leg? They didn't celebrate wildly, right? I thought that was pretty telling. I think it was just like, job done. We know that there's still another 90 minutes plus to go. But it was incredibly impressive. And Saka and Rice in particular, obviously Rice's free kicks, but Saka winning them, the general nightmare that he gave David Alaba out there and left back for Madrid. I mean, it just seemed like those two in particular really went to a new level. And again, are the key kind of forces behind this Arsenal team.
Yeah, I mean, Saka coming back, it just changes the team. It's evident. Even if he's not at his best, which he's been pretty darn good, it's just he's a different kind of. And I thought the hype around him, I was wrong early, was a little crazy. Like, it's not a guarantee that he's going to turn into a super. Well, he turned into a superstar, and I actually think he might be underrated, if that sounds possible. He's a spectacular player, and these are the sort of ties. I mean, not to turn it to Real Madrid side, but this is where your superstars have to show up. And honestly, it's a big Mbappe moment, isn't it? He's the guy on this team who doesn't have a Champions League. Or, I'm sorry, doesn't have a Champions League. Period. This is they won it last year, and he came in, and it was supposed to be, well, that's every Champions League for the next 4 years, so big for him.
And he's having a good season, He's obviously scored over 30 goals in all competitions, Andy, right? So I guess it's the intensity thing again, though, right? Like, if they can press Arsenal high enough for long enough in that first half, and Arsenal have to expect that and maybe play a slightly different way, which I don't think Arsenal want to do because they don't like to do that. I think that's the key, right? These first 35, 40 minutes of the game are going to be absolutely crucial.
Yeah, it almost feels like, just given the makeup of this Madrid side and just the personnel they have up top, it will have to be Arsenal undoing themselves, I think, in this one, because these are great players that we're talking about: Mbappe, Vinicius, Rodrigo, Jude Bellingham. Where's the ball winning and the pressing actually going to come from? Because we didn't see it in the first leg. It was Arsenal get the ball back, We're going to play it straight into midfield. We're going to play it straight up the field. And as soon as Madrid lost the ball, all three of the forwards were kind of just, oh, all right. That you could tell they were frustrated, and there wasn't that initial pressure put onto Arsenal, and it just made it really easy for them to play through. And so unless Arsenal, commit a couple of really, really bad mistakes early in this game, I think they're going to be able to settle in and not walk through it, but once they go into the mode of, all right, we're just here to defend, and we know how good they can defend. I think they've had the best defensive record in the Premier League the last couple of years, and they have it again this year. That kind of sets up, I think, actually to suit them quite well.
What are you going for score prediction, Nick?
2-0 Real Madrid.
Seems about right. Andy, what do you think?
I was going to say 2-1 to Madrid, but it'll be probably one or maybe even both of them coming a little bit late on.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm going to go 3-1 to Madrid. I think it's going to be really dicey. I think I could easily see it being 2-0 to Madrid at halftime, and then Arsenal set piece or just kind of stepping up a bit, Madrid scoring one and then rallying. But it's not going to be easy. I think it was a really good night for Arsenal in the first leg, a really poor night for Real Madrid in the first leg. And I think the levels are going to be a lot closer. And I think Arsenal, some of their young players, I still have a few concerns about them at this top elite level. And it's easy enough to say, but we have the body of work there for these Real Madrid players for many, many years, pulling it off in the key moments when it really matters. And I think there was disappointment, but also an air of, okay, this is a chance for us to show what we're all about once again from the Real Madrid players after that first leg defeat. So I'm intrigued to see this Arsenal team, how they cope with that. And I think they will just about do it and pull it off and get to the Champions League semi-final. So head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for all the latest on this game. We'll have you updated during the game, reaction, analysis afterwards. Massive, massive Champions League quarterfinal, second leg, Real Madrid against Arsenal. Cannot wait for this one in Madrid.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Lowe, and as we head towards the end of an exciting Premier League season, make sure you like and subscribe on the NBC Sports YouTube channel for more content like this.